Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypnotic coaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences generally. If you'd like to know more about my professional work or sign up for my free e-newsletter, Power Lines, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Well, today's podcast is inspired by an article in the Sunday Times from January 6, 2024, by Oliver Moody. It's entitled, "The Tattooed Professor Teaching Us All How to Be as Happy as the Swedes." Well, the professor in question is Micael Dahlia, who is at the Center for Wellbeing, Welfare, and Happiness at the Stockholm School of Economics in Sweden. Whenever social scientists explore which nations have the happiest people, the Nordic countries almost always tend to show up at the top of that list, despite their long, dark, cold winters. On this particular list, Sweden comes in sixth, far higher, I would add, than the United States. Now, one reason for this is that such nations, the Nordic nations, tend to be fairly homogeneous in their population. So they escape some of the social pressures with immigration or racial tension that other nations have. Also, they tend to have strong social safety nets with high wages, free health care, a guaranteed pension, and often free education. But most research finds that these situational benefits, while a help, do not account for the consistently high scores on objective scales of life satisfaction and happiness that we routinely see. Well, the Center for Wellbeing, Welfare, and Happiness is trying to determine why that is. Well, the article describes Dr. Dolin as one of the youngest economics professors in Sweden and a character who very much fills the eye. He's tall, he has long hair, a beard, and many tattoos. But each of these tattoos relates to one or more of his research findings. He uses economic theory to analyze happiness and argues that actually fairly small things make a huge difference in the overall happiness levels of a population. He has several populations out. One of these, his 2009 book, Nextopia, is intended to correct the belief that your next purchase will make you happy. That is, he believes that consumerism is actively destructive to happiness. Well, being a person of minimalist sensibilities myself, I get this. I see lots of people who try to soothe their anxieties with what counselors sometimes jokingly call retail therapy. They go out and buy stuff to distract themselves from what they're worried about. Basically, they get high by going shopping. Well, I understand why. I mean, most of us find ourselves flooded with advertising for products that we are urged to buy. I sometimes find myself hesitating to add someone to my Facebook friends list because a lot of these friend requests quickly turn out to be bogus, coming from people who just want to message me with their pitch or have me buy something from them. And every mental health office worker will tell you about the number of voicemails that come into professional offices as if they were from prospective clients. But when you return the call, you find yourself talking to someone who really wants to sell you a service or a product. It wastes a lot of time. Consumerism, the urge to buy things, never works because buying things doesn't actually address the core issues we have in our lives. Professor Dahlia argues that we think that acquiring stuff we don't need in order to impress people we don't like results from the fact that all of us feel isolated in today's world. And while it really doesn't help in the long term, going out, interacting with salespeople and buying stuff creates a bogus sense of connection. Human beings are social creatures. We are born in relationship. And children who are isolated instead of nurtured during critical early life stages often fail to thrive. But in our lives, we often go through our day without touching people. We touch paper, books, computers, but there isn't that much connection with others often apart from that. And unconsciously, we feel that lack. So Dahlia had some of his researchers go out and spend some time every day making eye contact with a stranger and engaging them in a short conversation. That's all. But within a short time, those researchers found themselves reporting feeling happier, less isolated, and better connected. Just breaking the interpersonal ice in this little way had a huge effect on their overall happiness. Interesting, no? Well, there are many such findings in Professor Dahlia's work. For example, he has the number 8 tattooed on his throat because he found that that's the optimal number of seconds to consider what you should do next. He argues that you'll basically make better decisions if you give yourself no more than 8 seconds to thinking about what to do than if you paralyze yourself by overthinking your options. Well, that's an interesting observation. I don't have any data to evaluate it, but I have been experimenting, and yeah, for a lot of things it does seem to work. I wouldn't make a major investment choice or a life decision that way, but pondering, which brand of peanut butter to buy or which cut of roast to get at the butcher shop, 8 seconds is about right. But of all the professor's ideas for being happy as the people in one of the happiest countries in the world, the one that really caught my eye was the one represented by the skull and the number 70 he has tattooed on his wrist. His idea is that the best way not to work yourself to death is to give approximately 70% of your maximum possible effort to any task or project. That's all you need to do. A subjective effort level of 70%, and you'll do fine and feel good. Well, that kind of surprised me because I'm from one of those backgrounds where people are always saying, put in 100%, or even put in 110% of effort to the job. Bring your A game, people will say. I've been told that by more than one executive chef. Professor Dahlia says, and he has research to back this up, that if you do that, you will in fact burn yourself right out. Trying to put 100% of your effort on all of the many responsibilities you have is simply not sustainable. The human body cannot bear that load. And the ever-increasing of stress-related illnesses in society is part of his evidence. Well, I'm reminded of a model that comes out of the Murray Bowen system of family therapy. Bowen imagined a scale of 1 to 100 for how well-functioning a family could be. He thought that no family ever got to 100. Maybe Jesus and Buddha were somewhere around 70. Instead, he argued that the best families who raise great kids and have minimal contact are at about 40, meaning they get things wrong more often than they get them right. But a family that functions at 40 is universes better than a family that functions at 5. No one has to be perfect to do well. You can do well functioning at a far lower level than perfect. And that is his finding. You don't have to give 100% or 110%. It's okay not to be perfect and counterproductive to try. Instead, just give 70% on the whole and you'll be fine. So for most things, you don't need to bring your A game. A solid B- will be just great, and you will not burn out, and you will go the distance, and you will outlast your competition. His argument is that in Swedish society, that's what's expected. Employers don't want you to give 110%. You're not evaluated that way. 70% is fine. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject. I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help me if you let others know about my work and my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. And if I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel. Have a great week.